Okay, welcome everyone to Genealogy Club. Tonight we're joined with genealogist Jean King, who is a reference librarian at the West Hempstead Library. She's also a board member of the German Genealogy Group and a board member of the Genealogy Federation of Long Island. And we're happy to have her back. So thank you for joining us, Jean.
Hi. Now, is most everybody from this area, or we have people from out of state besides this gentleman? Do you know?
Our group is mostly Oceansiders, but
Oh, okay.
they travel, so sometimes they're visiting family in
Oh,
different states. So
got it.
they're of Oceanside, but not always in Oceanside.
Oh, okay. I was just curious about the Virginia connection there.
Oh yeah. All right, I'm just gonna spotlight you. Okay.
Boy, I look
Sorry.
gigantic. Okay, so Erin asked me if I could give a talk tonight about looking for vital records in New Jersey and New York. And because I had wanted to talk about a fairly new website that will help you with New York City research that the municipal archives put together, and it's been up about a year now. So I was going to start with the New Jersey records just because New York's going to take a little longer to get through. And I have to preface the New Jersey records with the fact that I have not looked for New Jersey records probably in 15 or 20 years myself. So I did a lot of reading on their different websites to get familiar with what they have and what they don't have. And things have improved, I think, quite a lot with some of the New Jersey records. I actually hired somebody to go to Trenton for me when I was looking for New Jersey records, because that was really the only alternative that you had. And now there's quite a bit indexes online that would make things a lot easier than when I was trying to do it back then. Now, I haven't done a Zoom meeting in over a year, so I'm gonna share my screen and hope that everything goes okay.
So far, so good.
Okay, great. So everyone should have gotten the handout from Erin. She said she sent out the two handouts I made up because I didn't want
to interrupt for a minute.
Yes.
I don't know how to retrieve that handout. I can wait till later on, and then Erin can tell me.
Oh yes.
So
I'll walk you through it later.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
All right, go ahead.
Yeah, because there's a lot of dates involved, and I just didn't want people having to sit down and try and write all these dates out while they're listening. So I figured it's easier just to do the handouts this way.
Yes, absolutely.
So New Jersey is a bit different from New York with their record keeping, because New Jersey has records quite a bit older than New York State does. Well, as far as the legal requirements go. The county marriage records can go back as far as 1795 in New Jersey. And then they began state level recording in 1848, where in New York, it wasn't required until 1881. So I found that pretty interesting. And there's also municipal records, which also began in 1848. But I did read on the state archives page that many of these pre-1910 records did not survive on the municipal level. And in New York, you have the same kind of issue going on, where it was required starting in 1881, but there seemed to be a lot of missing records even up until 1900 in New York State. So even though it was required, it doesn't necessarily mean that the counties or municipalities were doing what they were supposed to do. So in New Jersey, they keep their vital records in two different places. We have the New Jersey State Archives and then the New Jersey Department of Health. And the State Archives website that we'll look at in a few minutes actually just was named one of the best state websites by Family Tree Magazine. I don't know if any of you look at that magazine, but every year, usually it's a little early this year, usually it's August, they come out with a list of the 75 best state websites, and the only one from New Jersey was the New Jersey State Archives. So I just found that out today. So that was pretty cool. So the state archives, like the municipal archives in Manhattan, have the older records for New Jersey. So what they have currently is from 1848, when the record keeping began, to 1922 for births, and then up to 1940 for marriages and deaths. And in theory, every year they should, the archive should get an additional year that they can release to the public. In New York, it doesn't always seem to work that way, and I'm not quite sure how diligent New Jersey is, but in theory, that's what should go on. So at the archives, you can request a 1-year search for $10 and $15 for a 2-year search. They also do have some divorce records at the state archives, but you have to go in person. And the index to them, you can only see in person, and you can only get the files if you go in person. And that would be in Trenton. They're on their website. They do, oh, and in comparison, New York, the divorces are sealed for 100 years. So in New Jersey, they're a little more lenient with that. On the archives website, they do have a marriage and death index that goes up to 1900. And they also have microfilm for Department of Health records that you can use in person. And they cover these different time periods: the 1918 to 1923 for births, 1918 to 1948 for marriages, and 1918 to 1961 for deaths. But again, you know, you have to go in person to take a look at them. And that always, that's why I ended up hiring someone, actually, because there's still a lot of things that you could only do in person by going to Trenton, or in my case, I hired someone to go to Trenton for me. But I was surprised, this person actually did get me a divorce file from Trenton, and I was amazed at all kinds of stuff you can find out from a divorce file, because I've never even tried to get one from New York because of the 100-year embargo. So hopefully this is going to work. Oops. And this is not the, sorry. Okay. So this is the website, the genealogical holdings for the New Jersey State Archives. And it was quite interesting because when they were listing the records that they hold for birth, marriages, and deaths, it didn't really, the health department and the state archives websites don't agree on the dates. So I read things over many times, but I think that I believe the state archives page, that there, you know, you can get the marriages and death records up to 1940 and the births up to 1921. And you can also see they have county marriage records, county birth and burials. They even have slave records, and their information about the divorce records on this site. And then on a separate page, they have their searchable databases and where you can request records. And so here's where you could search for those earlier marriage and death records through their databases, and then they have the forms to fill out to request records from them. And you can see they have more things as well with the land records, military records. And you can put in requests for those, also probate searches. So they don't just have birth, marriage, and death records. And apparently they have this new feature now where you can pay by credit card. And they also accept checks and money orders. And, you know, they give you all the information you need on their forms.
Jean, could you
Mhm.
explain how colonial marriage bonds might differ from current marriage certificates or whatever?
I honestly don't know because I've never seen one.
Oh, okay.
My relatives weren't here that early, but I
Jean,
wonder.
do, another question, do they email you the records or do they mail it to you?
I would guess they're mailing them to you.
Okay,
I know in Manhattan, they can email to you, but well, if we open up one of the forms, maybe, will it say anything? Let's see. They accept credit card payment. Blah, blah, blah. Non-refundable. I mean,
I have to look into that.
I don't see anything that really gives you a choice. I would just assume that it's mail.
Yeah, and if you're mailing a check-in, they might mail it back. I mean, they might mail you the record if they want the check through the mail.
Yeah, I'm just assuming because that's generally the way it's always been. Is
Okay,
when you fill these things out, it comes back in the mail. And I'm looking because it doesn't.
I don't mean to hold you up on that.
No,
Don't, don't.
I'm wondering because you'd have to, I guess, actually fill out this form
Right, before you get to the
to
next
see
page.
if they would even ask you for an email address, but I'm
Yeah.
guessing not. I'm guessing they're gonna mail it.
Okay,
No, it was the Department of Health, maybe that had. Yeah, well, the Department of Health is a whole other thing. I would just guess based on how things have been in the past that it would be email. I mean, it would be regular mail. Now, they used to be extremely slow. I don't, again, since it's been so long since I'm used them, I don't want to give them a bad rap, but and since they accept credit card payments, maybe they've updated things and they're quicker than they were.
Jean, what you're saying also is if records, the records aren't any beyond the 1940, it's. In other words,
This is the archives, yeah.
so in other words, not anything from 1955, you won't get the information.
That's you have to go through the health department.
Okay.
So we will go now. I'm hoping this is going to work. Okay. It worked, right? Okay. So the second place then you're going to go for records is the Department of Health. And they have divided up the requests you can make from them into genealogical and non-genealogical requests. And they are charging $25 for a record. But I looked at a bunch of the different municipalities and it seems like they charge $15 for a certified copy. So it's going to vary whether you go through Trenton or whether you go through the local municipality. But I found really intriguing on their website was information about Jersey City in particular, who issues their own birth certificates for people born starting in 1918 up till just 2 years ago. And when I looked into this some more, what happened was Jersey City's Department of Health office was shut down for 18 years because they were issuing false birth certificates and got
Wow.
caught up in some kind of scandal. And so their office was closed. And you could apparently only go to Trenton if you wanted a birth certificate and you were born in Jersey City. So it was only in the last couple of years that they got reinstated, so to speak. And now you can get birth certificates from Jersey City again in Jersey City. So that was quite interesting. So I was like, why do they have this thing about Jersey City on their website? I don't understand.
Wow.
Well, that's why. Okay, so they divide the requests. The non-genealogical requests are births within the last 80 years, or if the person is still living, marriages within the last 50 years, and deaths within the last 40 years. But when I read through all of their stuff, they have two different types of copies you can get of records. You can get a certification copy, or you can get, a certified copy. So I read this website many, many times. It seems to me if you ask just for the certification copy, which is not a legal copy, you don't have to show any proof of relationship. But the restriction is that you won't get the social security number or cause of death if you ask for a certification copy. If you need a certified copy for legal reasons, or, well, I guess generally it would be legal reasons. If it's non-genealogical, you have to be the spouse, the child, the grandchild, and I spelled sibling wrong, sibling, and you have to document how you're related, how you're related to this person. So with these non-genealogical requests, you can order them online, and on the website, it's saying the wait is about 8 to 12 weeks to get the record. And they also have genealogical requests. So you have the births more than 80 years old and the person must be deceased. Marriages more than 50 years and they need to be deceased, and deaths more than 40 years ago. But if you want a certified copy, even of a genealogical request, you still can only be the spouse, child, grandchild, or sibling and document it. And now with the genealogical requests, they allow you to ask them to search additional years, which they don't do for the non-genealogical one. The genealogical one has to be paid by check or money order, and it has to be done by mail only. And they're estimating a 10 to 12 week wait for genealogical requests. So not overly fast, and it's still, the same price at 25 from Trenton, and I don't even know, I looked at some of these municipalities and I don't believe that they do genealogical requests on the municipality level. They only do the non-genealogical ones. So that's okay. So let's go over to their website. So here's Department of Health. And you have to send in also ID with a request to them, the fees. So they spell out everything you need to do. And if you're trying to prove your relationship, what they'll accept. And so it's all here on this page. They also have, that's for the they have, the non-genealogical ones. This no record of marriage is to prove that you've never been married before. That, I guess it's a requirement in some cases. And they have how to do the online, the Jersey City story. and a list of local offices. And yeah, again, each area seems to be a little different the way they do vital records. So you would have to really go to that municipality or township website and read what their requirements are and what records they have. And as a fallback, then if you can't find it on the local level, you would go through Trenton and do this, Department of Health request. So let's move on. I wanted to show you on Internet Archive. I don't know if any of you have used Internet Archive before, but they have genealogy records. They have lots of books, really interesting books that might help you with genealogy. But I wanted to show you this online index that they have from a group called Reclaim the Records. They have a birth index from 1901 to 1903, a death index from 1901 to 1903, and a marriage index from 1901 up to 2016. And all of this is free. But as you can see, you're going to have to poke around kind of and find the year and then find the surname letter that you're looking for these different indexes. But this was a big improvement when they put up this marriage index, because there really were no indexes for New Jersey vital records for a long time. So when these went up, it was a big deal, especially the marriages. And I think that I forgot a tab. So give me 1 minute. I'm hoping I can do this. And then there's also a great website, which I hope so. Can you see this? New Jersey
Yes.
Death Index?
Yes.
Okay, this is also fairly new, I'd say the last couple of years, from the same organization, Reclaim the Records. And this is something you never had for New Jersey. So on this website, the New Jersey Death Index, you have a database search where you can search by name for those years. And then if you scroll down, these are the different groups of years that you can search by surname. And you'll see the actual image. So there's a gap here where there's no records. With the health department saying they couldn't find the death index for these years. Now, what happened to it? Nobody knows, but they're claiming it's missing. Then we also have half of 1920 to 1924 is missing. Apparently they couldn't find that either at the health department. Again, more missing years that they can't find. And then it goes on, and then all these other years you can search. And this picture is what the images look like. It would look like that. So it was really a great improvement for people doing New Jersey research to have this death index online. Because again, there was just really no indexes for a long time for New Jersey, which made it really frustrating. So whether or not the Department of Health is going to turn over the missing information is anyone's guess, because New York City is certainly not being cooperative at all in the same kind of things. So we also have Ancestry. Oh, actually, wait a second. I'm going to switch over to Family Search for a minute. FamilySearch.org has this really great research wiki. And if you're interested or just starting out in New Jersey research, this is a great place to go and look at some information about the different counties and they have different categories of records you can look for. And it's really a recommended place to start. And they'll, let you know what kind of information is out there for New Jersey records. If you go into Family Search itself, I don't know if everybody uses them, but you need to create a free username and password. And then sign in. And then you can just search for records, and where's my map? Sorry, some of these, you can just click on the map and go over to New Jersey. Oops, sorry, hit something else. I hit one of my, oh shoot. Sorry, I hit one of my tabs by mistake. All right, we'll just go. You could just type in New Jersey, start typing New Jersey down here. And you'll see that they have births and christenings, marriages, deaths and burials, church records, county marriages. They have a partial death. They have different a death index and death records. So you can, more marriages. And they also have this geographic birth index, which is what it sounds like. You actually search by address instead of name. If you're having trouble finding somebody, and it's just for these years from 1901 to 1929. So, Family Search is, and of course, Family Search is free. And then Ancestry, you have at Oceanside, right, Erin?
Yes, we have the library edition.
Right. So you could just go into card catalog on Ancestry. And if you put in New Jersey, again, you could see the types of records, that Ancestry has. They have church records, birth, marriage, and death. And it's always good to compare the two sites, and you have to also read the descriptions of each of the databases to see what counties it might be covering, what years it's covering. If there's anything missing, all of that would be in the description. And, I just found just one short example of a local website in New Jersey. I found in Monmouth County, they have all of these different types of records, and one of them was marriage returns. So when you know what county you want to look in, you can always check something like the county clerk's website to see if some of them actually will have like indexes online. Instead of having to go there, you may luck out and find indexes online. So what time is it? Okay, so we're gonna conclude our New Jersey part. Now, I need you to bear with me for a second because I need to open up my New York State records. If you have New Jersey questions, I could try and answer them, but I'm not 100% sure that I can answer all of them. Let me see.
There's a lot of places to start looking, but it
Well,
would be good if you knew the county.
Well, yeah, you need to know the township, the county, because the townships also, I guess, would have their own set of records as well.
Trenton seems to be a popular name. Is that a county or is that a town, or what is Trenton?
Trenton's the capital, right? Am I wrong?
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. See how much I know about New Jersey.
So they should have quite a few records also, is that what you're saying?
Well, Trenton's where the state archives
Okay.
is.
Okay,
So the older records, they're going to
Okay.
show up in Trenton.
okay.
And, that was my frustration was, Trenton's not around the corner from us.
No,
And that's why I ended up actually hiring somebody to go look for me. And she actually was pretty reasonable. But sorry, again, I've lost my handout. Sorry, I've got to go find that. I'm
excuse me
so bad
again.
at this.
Is that the handout that you're going to be giving us?
Right.
Yeah, that's the
Yeah.
one, I emailed it out to you.
I lost my handout.
For
Sorry.
some reason or
That's
other, I didn't, all right. Like I said, later on, we'll go through it. It's all right.
Is that you, Fran?
Yes, hon,
Okay, I'll make sure I get that to you.
no problem, hon.
Okay,
I don't know why I keep losing the handout. Right. Let me go. Sign in again. All right. New York handout.
okay,
Come on. There it is.
all right.
Okay. So New York is quite a bit more complicated than New Jersey because you have New York City to deal with. So as I think I mentioned before that recording of vital records didn't become law in New York State until 1881. But there's definitely records on file before that, especially in Manhattan, Brooklyn, Queens, probably Albany. You'll find that there's records available, but the law didn't go through until 1881. In New York State, you have restrictions on access to vital records if you're not a direct line ancestor. And in New York, a direct line ancestor is the child, grandchild, or great-grandchild of the person whose record you're requesting. And if you're not one of those, then the waiting period is 75 years for birth certificate, and the person must be deceased. Death records, are 50 years, and marriage records are 50 years, and both must be deceased. And again, like New Jersey, you would have to show proof of relationship to the person if you're trying to get around the waiting period in New York. It didn't used to be that way in New York City many years ago, but we'll get to them. New York City has its own rules about vital records. So in Nassau County, marriages are issued by the towns and the cities, and birth and death records are handled could be in towns, cities, or incorporated villages. And the fee that New York State asks for is $22 for a vital record. There is some marriage records are kept by the county clerk, but only for 1908 to April 1935. And you can order that. You can go in person too. It doesn't have to be by mail, but you could go and get a copy of a marriage record in Mineola for $5 for a marriage for that time period. Also, the German Genealogy Group website has an index of town of Hempstead marriages from 1953 to 2016. And it just lists the bride, the groom, and the date, but the only people that can get a transcript are the bride or the groom. In Suffolk County, it's the town clerk's office that has birth, marriage, and death records. So you have to, you can see it's a little different between Nassau and Suffolk County. They don't have the records in the same places. I have gotten records from some town clerks for as little as $10, but they technically should be charging the 22. And again, Suffolk County Clerk also has marriage records like Nassau does for the same time period. But in Suffolk, some of them are just affidavits and some of them are abstracts, depending on the year. And again, it's $5. And the index is on the German Genealogy Group website, which we'll look at in a little bit. And I'm a board member of the group, but I have to say our databases are really good for vital records, especially for the city. Now there's also records, of course, up in Albany, but the records that are kept in Albany don't cover New York City, except for Queens and Staten Island birth records from 1881, which when the law went into effect, to 1897, which is when they were incorporated into the city of New York. So that's why Albany would have those records up there. They also don't have any records for Albany, Buffalo, or Yonkers until January 1st, 1914. So this is the Department of Health in Albany doesn't have Albany records until that date, but I think that the Albany records are probably through the county clerk's office before that. And for those cities, you would check with the registrar's office or the city clerk from those cities, and they should have records going back at least to the 1870s for those cities. Okay, and on their website, the Department of Health website in Albany, they're still saying it's an 8-month wait to get records. It's been saying that for years. So I don't know if it's true, it's not true. I haven't ordered anything through Albany in a long time. So your best bet is always to go right to go to Nassau County, go to Suffolk County to get records and not to go through Albany if you can help it. There are, I don't know if any of you had ever been out to the Patchogue Library, but they used to have microfiche that was a New York State birth, marriage, and death index. And you would have to put the little cards into the machine and read them on microfiche. Well, that you don't need to do that anymore because those images are now available on Ancestry and they're also on Internet Archive. And the birth index goes up to 1942 and the marriage is up to 1964 and the death index goes up to 1956. But so this is New York State, not the 5 boroughs. And there's also images of those microfiche cards on Internet Archive, but on Ancestry you can search by name, and you can't do that on Internet Archive. Also, the Department of Health has its own death index that picks up where the other one left off. So the microfiche one ended in 1956. Then they started an online death index that starts in 1957 and now goes up to 1972. And I have to say that I actually emailed them and said, why have you not put up 1971 and 1972? Because the embargo is up. It's 40 years for deaths. So they were behind. And after a few emails, I actually got them to put up the 2 missing years. So I was very excited about that. So sometimes people in government actually listen. So every year at the beginning of every year, this Department of Health death index should be adding a year to its database. So now I'm going to keep track of that and make sure they're doing it. So now the city of New York is a whole different ballgame. Again, our German genealogy group website has birth, marriage, and death indexes in, they have a collection that's called early birth, marriage, and death records that cover Brooklyn, Queens, and Staten Island births, Brooklyn's and Staten Island marriages, and early Brooklyn and Queens deaths. And the dates in that database cover approximately the 1870s and 1890s, and it's just for a few of the incorporated towns for Brooklyn, Queens, and Staten Island. It's not a huge database, but it does cover some of the gaps that are out there for indexes. Now, in New York City, birth, and death records and birth, marriage, and death records are held at the municipal archives and the Department of Health and the city clerk's office. And the municipal archives is the one that came up with this new website where they've been digitizing their birth, marriage, and death certificates and are 76% complete and have over 10 million records that you can print at home. So it's the actual certificates, it's not just an index, it's the certificates themselves. And right now, what they're still missing are some of the Manhattan death records and a lot of the marriage licenses. But these are different than marriage certificates, which are up online. The marriage licenses are what you would file before you were married, and there's not a guarantee that the people who filled out the marriage license necessarily got married. But there is a lot of good information on the marriage license forms, as well as the marriage certificates. On their website, they do say that there is no spelling variant searching. So if the name is in their index wrong, you will only find it if you spell it the way they did. So if it's spelled wrong in the index, you would have to spell it wrong yourself in order to find it. So what they suggest on their website is that it's easier to find the certificate number for what you're looking for, because then it will come up right away. And again, if you go to the German Genealogy Group website, you can get certificate numbers from the website there, and then go to Municipal Archives website and find the document you're looking for. And if for some reason you would like a certified copy, not just the printout from your home computer, they do send out certified copies for $18, and they want you to order them online. But I'm going to start pulling open some of the tabs. Here's Nassau County and their birth and death certificate page of how to apply for information. Nassau County also has this booklet online about obtaining vital records in Nassau County, which is very helpful because they go through all the different villages and how to get birth certificates from hospitals also. But the book is good, it's really helpful. This is the German Genealogy Group website. If you haven't seen it before, they have different categories for births and baptisms, marriages, deaths. There's also church records in here. And these are all indexes, and they would give you certificate numbers if you're searching for records in Manhattan. This is the New York State genealogy records webpage. And it explains about the waiting period and the information about what records they have and they don't have, their fees, and the application. And a lot of the towns and villages use that same application form. It's kind of like the standard form that everybody uses. We have the Internet Archive, which we had looked at for New Jersey. We also have the same types of records for New York with marriage, birth, marriage, and death records. These were the like the microfiche that Patchogue Library used to have, but they're digitized now. And this is that New York State Death Index. It starts in 1957 and it goes through to 1972 now. But again, New York City is not in this index. It's New York State minus New York City. So now, if I can go back to here, and okay. So, wow, I don't know what happened there. I'm sorry. All right. Yay. All right, so the New York City Department of Health is a totally different organization from the municipal archives, and they have the newer records. And sorry, I don't know why my handout did this, but if you're looking in New York City for a birth certificate for someone who's deceased, you can only be the spouse, domestic partner, parent, child, sibling, niece, nephew, aunt, uncle, grandchild, grandniece, grandnephew, great grandchild to get a copy. That's what got messed up here. They changed this a few years ago because before you could not apply if it was your aunt or uncle, or if you were a grandniece or grandnephew. And they did add that now that they allow it. But
Jean,
yeah,
the handout, it's easier to read than your
okay,
on
so
the
you
screen.
can read the
Yeah, we can read
handout.
ours. Yes.
I don't know what happened.
I don't know.
Something, a margin got messed up.
Yeah, but we can read it on our handout.
Okay, great. The problem with this, and I read these websites over and over again for New York City. New York City about 4 years ago had said that you couldn't get a copy of a birth certificate that wasn't your own unless it was 125 years after the person was born. And I looked, I'm telling you, I read this website over and over, and there is nothing on their website that says that now. So, and I Googled it. I don't know if that's still true, but it doesn't appear to be true on their website. On the website link, it just tells you you have to fill out their application, submit a family tree to show how you're related. You have to submit their death certificate to prove that they're dead. And then after you pay them and send in your ID, theoretically, you should be able to get somebody else's birth certificate without it being 125 years since they were born. So that's what they're saying, and I can't find anything that says that they rescinded this other crazy law, but maybe it's worth a shot. I don't know. They're saying, oh, they did say on the website that if you're looking for a birth certificate between, I think it's 1900 and 1919, that there's oh, yes, 1910 to 1919 will take longer to get than other birth years for some unknown reason. I don't know if that means they're not on site, they're in storage. I'm not sure. And with their death record form and website, it's saying that requesting a death record could take about 10 weeks. And it's longer if you're requesting a death from 1949 to 1970. And again, there is nothing on their website with the death certificates that's saying that you can't request it before a certain time period. I think they had changed the death certificates up to 75 years or something. There was a big lawsuit in 2018 and all kinds of, they were changing a lot of their regulations, but on their website as of yesterday, none of that is mentioned. So death certificates, again, the type of death certificate you can get depends on whether you want the cause of death or you don't need the cause of death. So they list the relationships that can get a cause of death are the spouse, domestic partner, parent, child, sibling, grandparent, grandchild, informant, or person in control of the disposition. If you don't need the cause of death, then you can also be the niece or nephew, aunt or uncle, grandniece, grandnephew, and great-grandchild, great and great-great-grandchild. So if you're willing to give up the cause of death, a lot of people can request the death certificate. They prefer that you do it online, but you can do it by mail also with the same, photo ID and all that. Marriage records are kept in a completely different place to make things more confusing. The marriage records starting from 1950 onward are kept by the New York City Marriage Bureau, Office of the City Clerk. If the marriage is less than 50 years old, it can be requested by either spouse, or if both parties are deceased, it can be requested if you have copies of both of their death certificates. And I actually did that, and I got it. My aunt and uncle were deceased, and I was able to get their marriage certificate by submitting those death certificates. And they want a money order or certified check, not a regular check. So, with the city, you have to know the municipal archives is different from Department of Health, which is different than the Marriage Bureau. So you have to really read what they want and how they want to be paid and use their forms and, really, and if you don't follow it to the letter, they'll send it back to you. So that I learned. There's also, besides marriage certificates, which is really what you're getting from the Office of the City Clerk, there are also marriage license index. And again, those are people obviously going with the intention of getting married and filling out the license forms, but whether or not they actually go through with the marriage, you don't know. There is a marriage license index on the German Genealogy Group website, and there are notes about this particular index saying that there are quite a lot of problems with Staten Island and Queens records, and on the website it goes into more detail about why. There's also a separate website, New York City marriageindex.com, and on their website, which is ties in to the German one also, they're letting you know that there are over 30,000 missing records, especially for the 50s and 60s. So using either one of these marriage license index, if you don't find someone, it doesn't mean they didn't apply for a marriage license. They could, it could be because the records just are not there. They're not in the index because of the problem with either the 50s and 60s, or I know Staten Island is quite a mess. The record keeping just was very poor. And so that's why there's a lot of problems with Staten Island and Queens. But people who in the German genealogy group are trying to make corrections to this marriage license index when we have time. It's a long, tedious process trying to figure out what things are missing and maybe how to correct them. So this is the New York City Department of Health birth certificate webpage, and it explains pretty much what I was saying. Down here is where it says ordering a deceased person's birth certificate. So that's what you would be looking for. And there is no mention on there at all about there being 100, that it has to be 125 years after they were born. And then we also have their death certificate site. So you could request it through Vital Check and do it online. If you go down here, this explains who can request it with the cause of death or without the cause of death. So you want to follow the instructions depending on what you're looking for. This is the City Clerk Marriage License Bureau. And you would go down here again, they explain everything to you. If the record's older than 50 years or less than 50 years, what you have to do. And here is our lovely new, well, somewhat new. This is the Municipal Archives website where you can actually print the certificates at home. And they give you the option of browsing by certificate type and borough, and you can set your range that you want. Or, oh, sorry, phone's ringing. Or on this other side is where you could change it to search by certificate number instead of last name. And the certificate number is the better way to do it. They have on here, this gives you, if you click on this page, it will show you what years they've digitized for each of the types of records. They show you where they've got nothing available. And years, there's certain delayed birth certificate forms that they have for some of the boroughs. So it's good to check each one of these tabs so you know what's on the website and what isn't. So here you can see they're still saying that they have a big gap in Manhattan with death records. So it's not that they don't have it, it just means that it's not been digitized yet. And having these records go online has just been great. And you can print them in color. So I don't know, it's really pretty cool to actually see the actual image and then be able to print it, and they're not charging you. I used to go into Manhattan all the time and spend $15 a certificate. And now if you don't need it certified for legal reasons, you can just sit at home and print away, except for those missing records. And and they just were also in the magazine, the Family Tree magazine, as being best website for New York State research, this website. And it is, it's for the most part, there are a lot of typos with the spelling of the last names, which can be problematic. And right now we haven't figured out a way for the German group to let the municipal archives know about all the incorrect spellings that we've been fixing on the German website, but we haven't been able to transfer to the municipal archives webpage. Now, just like New Jersey, if you go to the Family Search website and go down to records, you're going to see all kinds of records for New York, births and deaths and burials, marriages,
Oh, wow.
church records, births outside of New York City, the genealogical death index, more churches, county marriages. And again, the marriage license index, New York City record. So there's a lot on Family Search. And again, it's all free on Family Search. And just like New Jersey, Family Search has a wiki page for New York State where you can search by county to see what's available. And again, they have the same thing on the side where you can search by category for the different types of records. And on Ancestry, and it's always good to look in the card catalog to see it's easier to see what they have than kind of a hit and miss search. But you've got, wonder, like if we just put in New York first. Oh, the body in transit that was cool. we did the German genealogy group did the index for this bodies in transit. That was pretty. It was literally bodies going through New York City to other destinations. And they had to keep records of it during this time period because of all the diseases and stuff that was going around. So I would guess most of the bodies were not related to New York. They were just passing through, but we made an index for them. So you can see on Ancestry, there's a lot of church records. Again, you've got marriage licenses, birth, death certificates, the New York State death index, New York State birth index. So there's plenty of databases on Ancestry also to poke around in. And if anyone has the subscription to MyHeritage, they also have New York State and New Jersey records that may or may not differ from these other two. So it's always good to compare or search different websites because they're not all going to have the same information. And someone wanted to know about New York Historical Society, Erin. Is that person? Oh, you're muted.
Sorry about that.
Yeah,
Yes, that question came up, the New York Historical Society, if that would have
not, I
any
mean,
genealogical records.
no, not
But
really.
is that the one that you said would have hotel records?
Yeah, here.
That's
This
interesting.
is their website. And I went under, I think, library to look. Yeah, they're by appointment only. I found out that, oh, here it is. They have databases describing some of the files that they have. And these were the ones I thought, I actually looked at the hotel file one myself for one of my relatives. So they do have files on apartment buildings, hotels, and dining menus. And then just kind of looking through their online catalog, they have family files, like they have folders, surname folders. I'm assuming these probably would have been famous New York families. I don't know who these people are, but you could search, on the online catalog, you could search, I guess, for a surname and see if anything comes up. But I would guess they would have to have been pretty, influential or,
Mm.
uh, I don't know what the criteria is for the files that they have. But I'm sure you can call them or you can email them. And when I was there years ago, they had city directories also. And they may still be there. And I think it was not just for New York, but maybe for other states. But I don't know if they're still there and the New York City ones are all online anyway from New York Public Library. So there's, there's no reason to go into the city now to look at city directories.
Wow.
Yeah, New York Public Library did a good job putting those all up online, so that's kind of my conclusion. I'm a little confused about what's going on with the Department of Health in New York City and whether they got rid of those restrictions or not, but there's nothing on the website. So, I would go with what their website says.
Yeah. Well, thank you, Jean. I'm going to stop the recording and then we'll do questions.